Hello, everybody. Welcome here to another edition of Every Rocky Ever, a Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network, under the Rocky Mountain Rooftop banner. I'm your host, Skyler Timmons, and we've been in a bit of a hiatus, but I'm joined once again by my brother, Dustin.
Hola, hola.
Yes. Sí.
Excelente.
Es muy bueno. But,
we could just keep going with one-liners, but I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm don't know very much. We've been in a bit of a hiatus. Life's just busy especially for a dad of 3 and a school teacher, doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, this is the craziest time of the year with sports and school, getting through the end of that. It's just a hectic time, but we're here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing thing. It's perfect timing for our topic today and the theme for this month of recently in the Rockies and this fake holiday of Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, hopefully as the get into the summer months, we'll get a little more regular, but we figured this would be a good one to get a big batch of guys and cover some bases because, as I said before, there's a ton of Rockies, former Rockies, and a lot of them were here maybe just for a small instance. It may not necessitate an entire episode all to themselves, but we figured, here's a good theme, because recently the Rockies went to Mexico City, where they played terribly against the Houston Astros, but it looked like a fun time, a cool environment, good opportunity. They celebrated 2 of the greatest Rockies ever in Vinny Castilla and Jorge de la Rosa, who we've already done an episode for Jorge, and then we'll eventually do one for Vinny, who he'll get one all to himself, which more than deserving of that. But it's cool to see him get that celebration down there in Mexico City, because he's the number 1 Mexican slugger of all time.
Yeah,
something like that.
And what's awesome is Vinny has stayed connected to the baseball community in Mexico as a manager for their World Baseball Classic team. He goes down for the Mexican League and coaches still as a manager, and just a vital part when you think of Mexican baseball players. Vinny Castilla up at the top. Mm-hmm. And then what was cool is Jorge de la Rosa getting all the recognition, because when you look down, he was, of course, everybody thinks of Fernando Valenzuela as he's the top Mexican pitcher, but Jorge de la Rosa is up there. And for me personally, he's my number 1 guy at that spot. But it's really cool if only the Rockies could have performed better like they did back in '98.
Mm-hmm.
But oh well. But we wanted to recognize these players that there's not a whole lot of major leaguers from Mexico.
Yeah, and if you haven't picked up on the theme, we're going to talk about Rockies from Mexico, and there's been a good little handful from there. One mainly that we'll focus on, but we'll hit a bunch of other guys. Yeah, about 147 plus players, so about roughly 150 some odd players in the history of baseball from Mexico. It's a pretty small bunch, all things considered, that have cracked through to the big leagues. But a good handful of them played for the Rockies, which is always cool. Shows how international this sport actually is.
And I think it's really cool if they can have more, because in Colorado, a great population of people that rooting for these guys,
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's cool to see that the cultural connections, even in the minor leagues. I think it's really cool with the Latin spirit themes.
Mm-hmm.
I always wear the mariachis hat because they got some really cool themes. and it's a cool celebration of the cultures.
Yeah, and it's growing, and it's growing fast, which is really cool. And growing up here in Southern Colorado, we're around the Latin American culture a lot, and the Hispanic culture. It's ingrained here in the Southwest, here in the South. So it we always have a soft spot for some of these guys.
And especially, like I lived in Peru, and then uh, working on the farm with these guys that came from Mexico, and learning a little bit. If I knew Spanish back then, it would have been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But after learning Spanish, having an opportunity to talk with some of the Latino players in Spanish. One time out in Utah, we would play. There was Saturday softball going on, and there were guys from Mexico, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, from the Dominican. It was so cool to be out there with them and having fun with the game like they do. And of course, we ate delicious food. At the end of one game, we everybody would bring stuff. We'd have a feast and then go play some more. But for me, it's a real cool thing. Great theme to talk about these players, give them some recognition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, we got probably about like 12 or so guys. We won't go into depth on a ton of them because there's not a lot to talk about with a lot of them. But we'll make sure we give them that recognition. But our main guy of this episode is a starting pitcher for the Rockies. One of the more notable, an original Rocky. Probably one of the more notable names in Rockies history from those early days. One Armando Reynoso, who another one of those guys that I remember from MLB PA baseball from the Super Nintendo.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's Armando. He was your top dog, the first guy you throw on the mound.
Mm-hmm.
He had a screwball on that game. All right.
But yeah, so we'll kick it off here with Armando, and as always, we'll have Dustin give us a quick rundown on the career of Armando Reynoso.
We do have to recognize Armando's mustache goes
Mm-hmm.
into the top mustaches in Rockies history. We'll just get that out of the way. But he was number 42 for the Rockies, right-handed pitcher from San Luis Potosí, Mexico, and he had a solid 12-year career in the majors. He was first purchased by the Atlanta Braves from Saltillo, in the Mexican League in 1990. Then he was drafted by the Rockies, 92 expansion draft, with their 58th pick. And he pitched for the Rockies from the 93 season, the inaugural season, till the 1996 season. After that, he was traded to the Mets for Jerry Dipoto, and then went on to play for the Diamondbacks and finished his career, oddly enough, against the Rockies. He was a member of the Diamondbacks. But, a starting pitcher, like we said, the ace of the MLB PA baseball game. The last Braves to wear number 42. Number 42 for the Rockies as well.
Yeah, or he's at least one of the last ones to wear it for the Rockies. Something like that. He's up in there. But yeah, this one, another one of those episodes where this one will be more heavily on your memories of old Armando Reynoso, since he was before my time. But I think even me growing up, as a Rockies fan, you learn more about the team and learn about its history. The name that kind of pops up in those early years is Armando Reynoso, specifically in 1993. Goes 12-11, makes 30 starts, and has a 4 ERA. Oddly enough, that was the best year of his career in terms of just those counting stats. 189 innings pitched, 117 strikeouts, 63 walks, gave up 22 home runs, 101 runs in total, 84 earned. So, 206 hits surrendered. So, he was learning how to pitch at altitude on the fly, but you look at those numbers, you're like, it's pretty dang good.
Yeah, especially for that 93 season, he came in 11th in the Rookie of the Year voting. And, I didn't realize those are pretty solid numbers. Winning 12 games, a 4 ERA in that era. What else could you ask for? And the thing that jumps out for me there are the 4 complete games.
Mm-hmm.
Season. Solid.
Mm-hmm.
That's the more the Armando Reynoso that I remember. And we see strikeout to walk ratio, pretty good. But then he ran into the arm troubles of the next seasons, and his splits were just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so realistically, a lot of these guys from the past, we think, man, he was like a staple Rocky, and he was there forever, but he really wasn't. It was a quick, call it 2.5 seasons, and then he was gone.
Yeah, that's that thing, especially there in the 90s. And once those arm troubles start kicking in, it kind of ends up into being a part-time role, actually being on the field and participating. And then looking at those, that 93 season was really the marquee, that rookie season for him, really that marquee one of his career, where it didn't really reach those same heights the rest of his career. Kind of a pretty solid average pitcher that every team could use. When healthy, could eat some innings, but just dealing with injuries as he ages and everything. No, it's hard, but we said there's always just those moments that then, to you, define the guy's entire career. And I think for a lot of Rockies fans, it would be that 93 season. They think of that, oh yeah, he was a staple. Like, that dude was a stud with the Rockies. And, like, for the most part, he was. Like, in different instances, when he was on the field, he was good. But when you look back at them, you're like, oh, I guess they weren't as elite as I thought, but still pretty good, especially considering the offense that he had to work with behind him. A 4 ERA, that'll play because the Rockies are putting up like 20 runs.
Yeah. Shoot, and he had 2 home runs on his own.
There you go.
That 93 season.
But
three career home runs.
Ooh, there you go.
That's just one of those cool things, and it's crazy to see how much the game has evolved from that 93 season Rockies to now. And I don't have the footage. He wasn't a flamethrower. Said a lot of it, what I remember, is from the video game stats and being the crafty, hitting spots and having the breaking stuff. And that's something we don't see very much. We're all about power now. And this guy in the 93 season, as the Rockies are trying to figure out an identity, if we could go back and break down that 93 season approach and what he was successful with, and the pre-Humidor days, playing at Mile High Stadium, that's one of those sneaky, solid good seasons, especially from a rookie starter.
Yeah, I was looking at his splits for that 93 season, where at home, if I can get it here, at home he had a 4.36 ERA in 14 starts, pitched 82 and 2/3 innings, gave up 11 home runs, had 51 strikeouts, 28 walks. And that was at home. On the road, he went 5-8 with a 3.68 ERA, had 101 innings pitched, gave up 11 home runs, had 66 strikeouts to 35 walks. So pretty even splits, considering where he was pitching and having to go on the road, where, hey, it turns out you can be pretty consistent and successful home and away in a Rockies uniform.
Oh, yeah.
But I think he seems like that right type of guy that mentality, and I think Ryan Spielborg's brought him in, but the guy that was unafraid to pitch at altitude, unfazed by it, because especially in like Mexico, you don't often think of it, but there's some high elevations, altitude there in Mexico.
Well, that's what people don't understand is Mexico City's one of the highest world capitals.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think about it. You just don't just assume that it's like a sea level. No, it's up in the mountains,
Mm-hmm.
higher than here. And being from San Luis Potosí, that's high desert, and so what's cool, and Armando, just after his, I almost started speaking Spanglish, there's going off in Spanish with it, but he stayed in the game. He served as the coach for Team Mexico in the World Baseball Classic. I always think that's one of the coolest things about the World Baseball Classic is getting these former players with their home country teams. And the last few years, Mexico's been a tough team, fun and exciting.
Yeah. And it's cool for, those kids growing up in Mexico wanting to play ball, and they have guys that they can look back on history, and then to have guys like Armando Reynoso able to come back and help out and share that knowledge. It's cool to help that game continue to grow, because there's talent everywhere, and see those guys continue to grow. And looking at it, he's probably in like top 30, top 20 Rockies pitchers of all time. Think of all the names of like the Jorge de la Rosas, obviously Ubaldo, Herman, Antonio Senzatella, Pedro Estacio, a ton of these guys. Armando's right up there with them in a lot of the categories, just from being there for 4 or 5 years, and to accumulate those stats. So he fits into the top 10 in a lot of starting pitcher categories. I think he's like 10th or 12th in all-time WAR for a pitcher. So he's up there in that pantheon of when you look at Rocky starting pitching. He's got a name for himself among them.
Oh yeah, and that's why these episodes, to give these guys recognition. They're part of Rocky's history, and I feel sometimes they get swept under the rug, and we forget about him. But him as being one of the pioneer starting pitchers, and with this episode, that praised Armando for what he did in the purple pinstripes.
Mm-hmm. So always there's guys that you can look to model your pitching after in Colorado. I think Armando could be a guy worth looking at. Okay, how was he successful in Colorado? What helped him? Well, you can go look back at it. How was he able to compete? Well, probably through strikes, kept it down in the zone, hit his spots.
And zero excuses with it too.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. I figure these guys just go. I might get, but I'm going to compete pitch after pitch after pitch, start after start after start.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think of for Armando Reynoso.
Mm-hmm. And most importantly, still rocking that mustache.
Oh yeah. All-time greats.
Mm-hmm. But moving right along here, moving on from Armando, we've got a bunch of other guys that we can hit on, and they'll kind of be rapid fire a little bit of mentioning guys, maybe talking about them just for a brief second. But we'll go here in alphabetical. First one up here that we can find, one Juan Acevedo. And we may not do the whole have Dustin have to run down their careers every time. I'll take some weight on that. But Juan Acevedo.
Yeah, it's actually his birthday today.
Hey!
So, Juan Acevedo, feliz cumpleaños, muchacho. He's from Juarez, so right on the border, who pitched for the Rockies in 2001.
Or he Drafted in the 14th round in 92.
Oh, yeah.
Debuted in 1995
That's
with the
right.
Rockies.
Yeah,
And then
I
came
got his.
back.
Yeah, I pulled. We were just barely talking about it before because he's the first one on. So he's one of those from the amateur draft in '92, and then in '95 traded to the Mets. Brett Saberhagen is a big one, and then bounced around, got traded to the Rockies for
Joe Espada.
Joe Espada. So he's one of those guys looking. He played for quite a bit of teams here.
Oh, wait. Yeah, traded by the Brewers with Kane Davis and Jose Flores to the Rockies for Mike Dejan, Mark Leiter, and Elvis Pena.
Yeah.
And then August 6th, he gets traded to the Marlins for Joe Espada.
Yeah, so he bounced around a lot of Rockies. Hey, we want this guy back. No, let's send him. No, let's get him back. So he ended up playing 8 major league seasons for the Rockies. Yeah, not a whole. He got 97 innings. Just not a whole.
Yeah, 6.17 ERA. So didn't find a lot of success. He was a little bit better in 2001, had a 5.63 after putting up a 6.44 in 95. It looks like he was working as a starter when they first called him up in 95. And then he transitioned his career, and I think that helped him find a little more life once he went over to the Mets and through his career of working more as a reliever. And I think from there went on to find a little bit more success as a reliever. So I wouldn't say necessarily a failed starter, but I think that move to a reliever role probably helped him out quite a bit, where you're keeping things a little more contained, because he struggled with his command throughout his career, it looks like. A lot of walks. Could get the strikeouts, but a lot of walks in there. Which walks always come back to haunt.
Yep, they do not do well. Especially when you play for the Rockies.
Yeah. Because during their time with the Rockies, didn't give up 5.2% home runs of pitches thrown. A home run rate of 5.2%. So was prone to the long ball a little bit, walked a lot, and could strike out guys, but I think it was those walks that were really, really hurting him a lot of the time throughout his career, but specifically with the Rockies. But hey, got to be part of that first playoff team in 95. There you go. Last pitched in 2003 with the Toronto Blue Jays. So a nice little solid career for that middle traveling reliever, the journeyman. Bounced around a lot. Yeesh.
Yeah, sheesh.
And he was also involved in a trade to the Cardinals with a guy that we'll talk about in just a few seconds or in a little bit. But Rigo Beltran was the guy that he was traded for with the Cardinals. So interesting, and we'll probably get to him really quick here. But moving on from Juan Acevedo, we have one Alfredo Amezaga. Amezaga?
Mezaga.
And I'm sure he had a long, lustrous career with the Rockies, right?
Oh man, this is another one that this love affair with the Rockies. He was drafted in 1998 by the Rockies, but did not sign.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets drafted the next year by the Angels, and was with them until the Rockies claimed him off of waivers in 2004. And then the Pirates took him in April of 2005. The Pirates took him, and he kind of bounced around. Marlins, Dodgers, signed with the Rockies in 2011. And then halfway through that season, he was traded to the Marlins for Jesus Merton. and then played for the Cubs, and the Dodgers is where he ended up in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another one. He just bounced around
Yeah, this is
quite a bit.
saying they tried to draft him in the 97 player draft at a high school, then tried to get him in 98 in the draft from college, and he still didn't sign, and then the Angels got him in 1999. So the Rockies tried to draft him twice, and he didn't sign with them.
Dang. Well, and he was born his Mexico connection. He was born in Ciudad Obregón, Mexico, but it looks like he grew up in Florida, there in Miami. But he's one, when I saw his name pop up, I directly went to the Marlins.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I remember him. But with the Rockies in that, with the 2005 season, he was number 15, and then number 99 in 2011.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, he was a center field, shortstop, second base, right-handed bat. With the Rockies, not a whole lot of action, just 22 games. Batted .250, a couple RBIs, so there really wasn't much there.
Yeah, that played a couple games, gets designated for assignment, and then returns back in 2011 and started the year in AAA. So he played about a month in AAA until his contract was purchased on April 29th, and then gets designated for assignment a month later after playing in 20 games. And looking at just kind of that utility type of guy, in Colorado, he became more of a regular, having success down there in Florida with the Marlins. Just weird sequence of events. They were set on making him a Colorado Rocky.
And he's just like him and a few of these other guys for the old baseball name game. Here's a double initials that you can throw out there for Alfredo Amezaga.
Yeah. Yeesh. What a weird career. And I was looking, it's like he's doing coaching. He's, I believe, a current manager for the Zaraperos de Saltillo of the Mexican League, and field manager of the Tomateros de Culiacán. Culiacán. So, doing a lot there. Only positions he did not play were pitcher and catcher. For some reason in my mind, I always think of him, I don't know why, like Alfredo Amezaga, I always think he's a catcher. It just seems like a catcher name, but maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. Maybe I'm thinking of Eliezer Alfonso or something.
I was getting him confused with Alexi Amarista. Like, he's the same guy.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, bounced around for quite a while. Last played in 2017 down in the Mexico League. And then retired from there. But then bounced around as a coach with the Braves, Tigers, and then has been down in the Mexico League being a manager. So, good for him. Good for him. Stuck around for as long as he did and then kept it going, found a career after. Okay. Moving on quickly. Next one up, Rigo Beltran.
Ooh, Rigo from Tijuana, Mexico. Played for the Rockies in the 99-2000 season. And left-handed. His career, too, was one of, like you said, he was traded back for Juan Acevedo. So there's their connection. But then he was traded from the Mets in 1999 to the Rockies for Darryl Hamilton and Chuck McElroy. And I was bummed when Chuck McElroy left. But, Darryl Hamilton, I remember him going to the Mets and had pretty good success after that. And I remember Brian McRae that came over from the Mets with him. But he played for other teams with the Cardinals, the Mets, then the Rockies, Phillies, Orioles, Reds, or to the Reds, Expos, and finished his career in 2004 with the Brewers as he signed, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a brief cup of coffee with the Rockies. 13 games. He made one start, 12 and a third innings, gave up 15 runs on 26 hits, 4 home runs, 16 strikeouts, 10 walks. So, not a great little sample size. Pitched just the one game in 2000, inning and a third, and then the Rockies were like, "Yeah, we're gonna move on."
Well, what's cool is looking at his history. He was drafted out of the University of Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a cool one. That's a little Jeff Houston connection there from the University of Wyoming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, little brief career, and one of the last Montreal Expos, 2004.
Nice.
Before they became the Nationals. And then, look, and he's was most recently, I believe, he was the bullpen coach for the Cleveland Guardians last year in 2023. So was coaching in the Cleveland system, and then became the bullpen coach for the 2023 season. So reached there, but he did not return for 2024. So for all we know, he is still a free agent coach out there. But that's old Rigo Beltran. If you're a huge Rigo Beltran fan, let us know if you remember him with the Rockies. That's what I want to know. If anybody has memories of some of these guys, especially some of these guys that played one game, like, do you remember? I was there at that game.
Yeah, the trio, like a lot of these guys, no clue. Like the name sounded familiar, but I couldn't tell you anything.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of these guys. Just kind of a drop in the bucket. They played here, but it's kind of the way this next guy is. Daniel Castro. I kind of remember this name. Appeared with the Rockies in 2018. Drop in the bucket.
Yeah, Daniel Castro, second base, shortstop, third base, from Guaymas, Mexico, and yeah, this one, that name, kind of okay, yeah, but he started his major league career in 2009 with the Braves. Was selected as a free agent, signed as a free agent by the Rockies, and kept signing to the Rockies for a couple of years, and then went over to the Dodgers, and then finished his career with the Mariners. But not a whole lot with Colorado in the 2018 season.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think of who he would have come up to just play in place of while they were injured, because it would have been Trevor Story or DJ if either of them were injured for any amount of time. Because that's what I remember it was. It came up as just a brief replacement for one of those guys that went on the injured list.
Yeah, looking at it, that name did look familiar.
Yeah, and one of those just random, middle infielders finally made his major league debut with the Rockies, or not major league debut with the Rockies, got called back up to the Rockies after not playing for several years.
But he hit a dinger with them.
Yeah, in his 18 games. Got that one dinger, 6 RBIs, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk. Had 8 hits with a double. Yeah, not necessarily the type of bat I guess they wanted in the lineup, but a good, nice little placeholder. Okay, we don't want to call up a prospect and then have to send him down, so we'll just kind of bide our time. And that's what I remember him getting called up. I think Alexi Amarista then started a bunch, and then he would get calls. Or something like that. No, Amarista was 2017, so yeah, something like that. I can't remember who our utility guy was in 2018. Patty Barrels? I think that was it. They all blur together at some point.
Yeah.
But it must have been for DJ.
It was for DJ.
Because 16 games at second base that year, so I think DJ went down with probably one of those hamstring or something. Yeah, because that was DJ. That was that year DJ was dealing with a leg problem because that was this walk year, and he had a leg injury, to kind of like early on in the year, something.
Yeah, so that he could curse the Rockies since he left.
On the bright side, at least he's sadly been dealing with injuries since then. But yeah, Daniel Castro, just that quick. That's what I remember. He got called up and was playing just a little bit. Do anything? Last played in, I think 2021. He was bouncing around down in the Mexico League, as recent as I can find. So still kick around somewhere maybe, but just blink and you'll miss it. One of those. He was a Rocky. There's your Immaculate Grid reference.
Yeah, there you go.
This next one, David Cortez. David Cortez.
Again, I don't even know who any of these, especially this one, because his time with the Rockies, I was not in tune with the Rockies at that time. But David Cortez from Mexicali, Mexico, and he was just there. Again, connection with the Braves, and he started out with the Braves, traded to the Rockies for Greg Colburn. And that one I remember because I was a fan of Greg Colburn. But then, just a couple weeks later, traded by the Colorado Rockies back to the Braves for a player to be named later. And so he spent a lot of time with the Rockies, or with the Braves, Diamondbacks, with Cleveland. In that time, he played back down in the Mexican League, and in 2004 signed again with the Rockies. Came back to the Rockies, and then finished his career with the San Francisco Giants. But then, it's just crazy. In all of those years, he only played four years in the majors.
Yeah, I was looking at his journey, and I guess he went undrafted out of high school because he left Mexico and came to California to play baseball, and then goes undrafted out of high school, played college at Imperial Valley College, didn't get much attention, grades were too poor to go to a 4-year university, and so after finishing junior college, had to take a job at a department store, and while pitching for an amateur team in Tijuana, and then in 1996, he was convinced to attend a Cincinnati Reds tryout in San Diego. But he didn't get signed because he was too short at 5'11".
No.
But then they referred him to a team in San Diego to keep him going. And so he played there, and then who impressed a Brave scout who was monitoring Marcus Giles. And then he gets signed there by the Braves. So a cool little story for him, to keep that dream alive. And those 2 years in Colorado, not too shabby out of the bullpen. Ends up, at 4.17 ERA in his 2 years with the Rockies, 80 games, finished 30 of them, had a couple of saves. So you can tell he was finishing a lot of games where the Rockies were out of it.
Yeah.
With just the 2 saves, so not a lot of opportunities there, but 82 innings pitched, 50 strikeouts, 16 walks, 12 home runs surrendered, 85 hits on 38 runs. So, guy that could probably throw some gas or just get guys out with the punch out, which, hey, you'll always take that from a reliever. So not too shabby for old David Cortez. He reached the big leagues and found some success there. Even if it was just a small sample size, he was successful for 80 games in Colorado, of all places.
Yep.
Crazy. All right, moving right along here. We've got the next one, Elmer Descends.
Oh, man. some of these names just make me. Some of these guys just make me giggle. But Elmer descends from Hermosillo, Mexico, and he played for the Rockies in that 2007 season. Uh, a right-handed pitcher that I just remember that. I just remember that name, and through his career with the Pirates, the Reds, part of a huge trade in 2002 that sent people everywhere with multiple teams, and with Diamondbacks. I think that's where I remember him most, and with the Royals. But went from Diamondbacks to Dodgers to Royals, Dodgers, Brewers, then to Colorado, and signed as a free agent in 2007, and then went back to the Pirates, to the Braves, to the Mets, again with the Mets, and was done with Major League Baseball in 2010. So he was like a back end starter that just throw a warm body out there pretty much.
Yeah, especially down there near the stretch. He last pitched for the big league team, or last pitched for the Rockies. So he comes in that season, pitches just the 5 games, and end of August 16th. Last game, September 7th. So like a week before the start of the streak to get to the World Series against San Diego Padres. He started the game, pitched 3 innings, gave up 1 run in 2 1/3 innings. Rockies went on to win 10-4 in that game. So there you go. He only had those instances of him starting only 2 bad starts. First one, he went 4 2/3, 5 runs on 6 hits. Then had a 4 2/3, 2-run, 6 hits. August 26th, he allowed 1 run over 6 innings. So quality start there. And then on September 1st, 7 runs in an inning and a third against the Diamondbacks.
Oof.
Taking the loss. But then September 7th, the 1 run in 2 1/3. So for a guy to just limp along there at the end of the season, not a bad little spot start, all things considered. Aside from those 2 games.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But then he didn't really have anything to do with it after that,
nope.
Right?
No, he was off the team if his last game was September 7th, so then they dropped him after that.
That's what I figured.
But a lot of those guys that part of the 07 team, we think of the guys there in September through the end, but there's a lot of turnover on that roster throughout the year.
Oh, yeah.
A couple more guys that I think are on this list that we'll talk about. But that's Elmer Descends. I didn't check if he's up to much else, but I don't think he's doing much else these days. Elmer Descends. Last I could see, last pitch with the Mets. Post playing, he was the pitching coach of the Inland Empire 66ers for the 2023 season. So, got into coaching like a lot of these guys do.
Good.
And everything. So, good for him. Keeping that going. The 66ers play in the... What are they? In the high A? They're either low A or high A over there in the California League. But next one, after Elmer Descends, Geronimo Gil. People think of Benji Gil, but this is not him. This is Geronimo Gil.
Geronimo Gil, a catcher, though, and from Estación Lagunas, Mexico. In Oaxaca. So that's talking, Vinny Castilla type of area. Played for the Rockies in that 2007 season. Just a sprinkle of 5 games. Had 1 hit, and that's about it for them. But he in his major league career, it was with Baltimore Orioles is where he had the most time.
Mm. Yeah, just kind of looking at his numbers here. He was prior to that season in 2006. He had been loaned to the Red Devils of the Mexico League, where he batted .396 in 75 games, and then was returned and called up by the Rockies on August 9th. So we signed him December 2006, loaned him to the Mexican League, and then brought him back up later in the season. Does that happen anymore?
No.
That's what I want to say. I don't think that happens anymore.
No, anymore you just hear of guys doing the Winter League.
Yeah.
But not in season. With the Orioles, shoot, he had a 293 batting average, 281 for the one season in small samples. The 1 year he played 125 games in 2002, batted 232, 12 homers. With the Rockies, it was just a quick, because that was all your Villarreal and Iannetta territory, wasn't it?
I always forget who all were who all was the other catcher there in 2007. Torrealba, yeah, Chris Iannetta. Yeah, it was mostly Chris Iannetta there in 2007. Or Edwin Bayorin, who had 3 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was mostly just a couple of those extra catchers they must have brought up when one of those guys got banged up or something. Dropping the bucket. He's a manager down in Mexico doing stuff as recently as 2021. Interesting Rockies connection. Or if you mentioned that, where he beat Vinny Castilla's record for most home runs by Mexican-born rookie. There in his debut season, so he hit 12, which beat Vinny Castilla's 9 in 93. There you go. There's a little Rockies connection for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, not much else going on for Geronimo Gil. He did win some medals in the Pan American Games in 2007 in Rio de Janeiro. Came away with a bronze. There you go. Not too much for Geronimo Gil. Apologies if you are a huge Geronimo Gil fan and own his Rockies jersey. What number did he wear? 18? No, 16. Wore number 16.
Yep.
There you go. All right, next one I believe is a pitcher. It's Edgar Gonzalez.
Oh, man. This guy, in his profile pic on Baseball Reference, he's got the flow. He's got that, mid-2000s, the little goatee. But he's from Nuevo León, Mexico, and pitched for the Rockies in the 2011 season. He was a guy that played for several teams: Diamondbacks, the A's, Dodgers, Rays. Signed to Colorado with the A's, and then back to the Rockies, the Astros, Blue Jays, Astros, Reds. He had a 10-year career in Major League Baseball as you said, a right-handed pitcher from San Nicolas de la Garza. So, yeah, number 38 for the Rockies.
Yeah, another one of those guys bounced around. He's still pitching down in the Mexican League. Still kicking around down there last season. But a very, very brief stint. And
just
looks like
2 innings for the Rockies.
Yeah. Looks like he did re-sign with them in probably like 2012 and played for the Sky Sox, but never came back, and then got released and then signed with the Houston Astros in August of that season. So they liked him enough to bring him back. I think I remember that name coming back in 2012. Okay, they re-signed him. He's just a guy down in Colorado Springs doing stuff, but nothing too fancy. Just the one inning, or just the 2 innings, gave up 2 runs on 5 hits in 2011. But yeah, that was mostly about it. 2012, pull this up really quickly. What did he do in Colorado Springs that year? One of the last few years in Colorado Springs for the Rockies. 2012, Colorado Springs pitched 15 games, a 5.40 ERA. Was given up about 6.3 runs per 9 innings. So not too good down there. So mostly emergency depth is what it looked like for him with the Rockies. Pretty short, sweet, and simple.
Yep.
Probably still kicking around down there in the Mexico League, which it's awesome that there's guys that can still find that life pitching down there and just keep it going for as long as they can.
I think guys too that have major league experience and going down and maybe mentoring guys that can make the jump up to the majors. I think that's some really valuable guys that have that major league experience.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, moving on here. Our next one is Rodrigo Lopez.
Oh man, Rodrigo. Yeah, boy. Love this guy. He wasn't. But
I remember the
Rodrigo
2017.
Lopez, right-handed pitcher. Butcher this one up. That's a good tongue twister one for you. Yeah, sure. That sounds good enough. That has just enough native language in it to make it not Spanish. Mm-hmm. But I remember Rodrigo from Orioles. That's what I remember him most of. But for his little career was purchased by the San Diego Padres from Veracruz in the Mexican League, and then for the Orioles, traded to the Rockies for Jason Birch and Jim Miller, and was there for the 2007 season. Then went to the Braves, the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, the Braves, the Cubs. Finished his career with the Phillies. Is signed and then before the season started in 2013. But he had a solid 11 years in the big leagues. And he was part of that crew.
Yeah, just at the first half of the year, from April to the end of July, in his career, he ended up undergoing Tommy John surgery. So that's what ended his season there in 2007. Because looking at his numbers that year, was looking pretty good in his starts. Made the 14 starts. Most of them were 3 runs or less. Threw in a lot of quality starts. Just had 3 starts where about 4 starts that he didn't pitch 5 innings. Only had a couple of clunkers in there, but pitched 3 games in April, then 1 in May, and then pitched most of June and most of July as a starter, and then I guess had elbow troubles, underwent Tommy John surgery in August. So he wasn't able to keep it going with the team that year, but not a bad year for him. 14 starts, 4.42 ERA, and 79 in a third. 43 strikeouts, 21 walks. Not too shabby for a guy that probably helped keep that rotation afloat for most of the year.
Yeah, that's what I remember him as just a grinder, somebody, and with the Orioles, just a solid starter throwing 200 innings, an innings eater, and unfortunately he had to go through that, get Tommy John. But part of that 2007 season at the beginning, and thanks to his contributions, they were able to get it there at the end.
Yeah, and I wonder, does his injury then open up the door for Ubaldo to come up? Because Ubaldo has 15 starts. Rodrigo Lopez makes 14 starts. I want to look here real quick. Ubaldo's 2007 game log. Because if he doesn't get injured, and he stays successful, who knows what happens? Yeah, Ubaldo comes up in July, comes up there in July, mid-July, July 19th, joins that rotation, and then most August. So maybe because of Rodrigo Lopez's injuries, it opens up the door for Ubaldo to make an impact, and then we know what Ubaldo goes on to do. It's all connected.
Yep.
It's like poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah. But Rodrigo Lopez, looking at it now, he is the general manager of Mexico. Was for the World Baseball Classic 2023. He's in the Caribbean Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And he is on his Twitter, does commentary for Los D-backs. So Spanish commentary for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's one of those things of the Rockies should highlight him a little more when they play the Diamondbacks again, because he played a big part there in that 2007 team that kind of gets forgotten. Like we said, there's a lot of guys that 2007 roster that just kind of get forgotten because we focus on who was there at the end of September.
Yep.
There's a ton of guys, and Rodrigo Lopez, you look at that year, number 6, when it lists the starters, he's number 6 right behind Ubaldo and everything. So, pretty good year. Underrated year. Kind of forgotten. And this next one here, moving along from Rodrigo Lopez, Miguel Ojeda.
Oh, yeah. This is another guy from Guaymas, Mexico. Catcher and played for the Rockies in the 2006 season. And only he was in 25 games that 2006 season. 25 games, batted .230, a couple of homers. But a guy that was one of those like depth pieces for a lot of teams. Played this, we're talking about league going back up and forth and back and forth. There's a lot of that with him by the Pirates from the Mexico City Reds, and then went back to the Reds Mexico and signed with the Padres, went back to them, back and forth. Went to Seattle, off of waivers by the Rockies, taken from the Rockies to go to the Rangers, and finished in 2007. But he's a guy, like I said, in that time frame, I don't remember Miguel Ojeda. The name looks familiar, but that's about all I know.
Yeah, looks like he wasn't expected to make the roster in 2006 after joining them, but when Torrealba gets injured, Ojeda makes the roster behind Danny Ordon, and impressed, looked good. There's some serviceable defense, had some good hits, some clutch hits. But then when they activated Torrealba, he was sent back down, and then they loaned him to Mexico City before he was traded to the Rangers. So, man, can we go back to the days where we're loaning guys to the Mexican League during the year?
Yeah,
it's so funny seeing that.
That's wild.
Go play in Mexico. Weird. Yeah, just a drop in the bucket. And then, like a lot of these guys, goes down and was a manager down in the Mexican League. Last info, around 2021, he was a manager for the Diablos Rojos. Not sure if he's still doing that or where he's at right now, but these guys that go back down, go manage, go coach.
Well, he was familiar enough with that team because he played there time after time after time.
Yeah. They just kept his locker warm for him.
Yep.
Come back for him. But that's Miguel Ojeda. Just a couple more here. Next one, Roberto Ramirez. Roberto.
He was from Vega de a la Torre, Mexico, and played for the Rockies in the '99 season, wore number 49, a left-handed pitcher. This is just one of those that he got just a bit of time. Pitched 40 innings for the Rockies in that '99 season. Before that, he was with the San Diego Padres.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then after his time with the Rockies, he was purchased by the Hanshin Tigers there in Japan. But that's just a real quick, nothing too spectacular. Started 4 games for the Rockies. They said 40 innings and a whole lot of walks and a little bit of strikeouts. It was almost 1-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like most of his career stuff, the highlights of his career came pitching down in Mexico with the Diablos Rojos de Mexico. His number 25 was retired by the team.
Nice.
Nice, yeah. Just didn't work out, but another of those guys where some of these guys just, they find some success in the other leagues around the world, which I think is awesome that those exist, and there's other avenues where guys can go and find a successful baseball career. Yeah, it may not be Major League Baseball, but it's especially you can go over and find success overseas. You can go down to Mexico and end up having a pretty fruitful career down there. And who knows, maybe you inspired somebody else or type of thing. But
yep.
Short career in the big leagues, but a successful baseball career, I would say.
Yep. I'd say any of these guys, they made it to the big leagues. And that's more than a whole lot of baseball players.
Yeah. Yeah. He is debuted and he was number 17,000. He was the 17,270th player in Major League history. So he's part of that small percentage that crack the big leagues. Because there's only been, over 20,000 at this point? Something like that. Yeesh. It's not a lot in the history, 150, almost 200 years of baseball history. Yeesh.
Yep.
But he made it. However brief it was, he made it. But last guy here with a hilarious picture on Baseball Reference. It's one Dennis Reyes.
Dennis Reyes that played for the Rockies in 2002. This guy was from Higuera de Zaragoza, Mexico. And this guy got around. Left-handed reliever that played for the Rockies in the 2002 season. He played for the Dodgers. Traded in December 2001 to the Rockies with Pokey Reese. I remember Pokey Reese was the dude everybody was like, dang, we got Pokey Reese. And it didn't.
He never appeared.
Be anything. Yeah. And they traded for Luke Hudson and Gabe White. So I remember Gabe White, another lefty reliever. I was like, okay, we're just switching them. Just played half of the season with the Rockies, then he was traded to the Rangers with Todd Hollinsworth, and they got Gabe Kapler and Jason Romano. And from there, he just bounced around Pirates, Diamondbacks, Royals, Padres, Twins, Cardinals, Red Sox, Orioles, and finished his career in 2012. He, 15 years as left-handed reliever. It's pretty good.
There's always a place for a lefty reliever in Major League Baseball.
Yep.
Especially if he could be successful, which pretty much in his entire career he was. Pretty solid reliever for the majority of his career. I think it really started to kick in there in Minnesota those last couple years in 2006 to 2008. Solid reliever.
Yeah, and I remember him more with the Reds. He played there for 4 years. But then I also remember in Minnesota, in 126 innings, a 2.14 ERA,
Mm-hmm.
good, and racking up the strikeouts.
Yeah. Which, when you're looking at your relievers, you're like, okay, can this guy get strikeouts? Which, hey, it's what you want. They're in 2002 with the Rockies. 16.5% strikeout rate. Had a kind of a high 13.2% walk rate. So a little more prone to the walks in his career, which not ideal, but didn't give up a lot of home runs, could get the strikeouts. So he could at least balance it out a little better. He's one of those names, I feel like I remember him, just the name, from, again, we always go back to our video game references. I feel like I remember him from MLB The Show. The one, I think you had '08 on your PlayStation 2. I feel like I remember him from that game, and I would go in and I'd build a roster and just put all the best players I could think of on that roster. And like he would be one of those left-handed relievers, like, oh, I should put this guy on there. He seems good. Yeah, that or that awful 2K whatever that I had on the Wii.
Terrible.
That game was not good, but it was all we could get on the Wii. One that had Evan Longoria on the cover.
Yeah.
And every swing was a home run. Yeah, that's Dennis Reyes. 15-year career. Good for him. Bounced around, kept it alive. Stuck around for quite a while. There's always room for a lefty in that bullpen. But there we go. There we have it. We've covered every Mexican-born player for the Colorado Rockies, with one exception who he'll get his episode in the future of Vinny Castilla. But a lot of pitchers, a lot of guys that didn't have a lot of success with the Rockies, but had successful baseball careers. And I like that a lot of these guys, they were able to then go back to the Mexican League and have a lot of success and have a legacy there, of whether they're still coaching down there or just played for a while down there. It's kind of cool to see that.
Yeah, and I just hope that the baseball will continue to grow in Mexico and in other places. And what we saw with the Rockies and Astros going down, beautiful stadium, the excitement, and getting people in the stands to see baseball. Mm-hmm. And you never know what it is inspired and who has this natural talent that they don't even know about. And I think that was what was also really cool to see the players and former players. There was quite a few that went down for the festivities. Jeremy Guthrie and some other those baseball the ambassadors were there to spread baseball and playing, because in a place like Mexico, soccer is king still, but there's some really good baseball talent.
And that's what the World Baseball Classic did last year.
Yep.
I think their success and the major league talent of guys that may not necessarily be born in Mexico, but their family, their ancestors, their connections there, their history is there.
Like Alan Trejo, right?
Exactly.
Now, that was the other thing on this list. This was just Mexican-born players. That's not counted the Adrian Gonzalez that is of Mexican descent. Tons of these guys that grew up here, but their ancestors, their parents, their grandparents were from Mexico, and so it's so rich in talent, and we're just barely scratching the little surface of it, of Colorado Rockies players. But in all of Major League Baseball, huge impact.
And when people talk about expansion teams, like Mexico City seems like one of those places that's primed for some kind of expansion, or a minor league team, something to really bring in Major League Baseball or affiliated baseball beyond just the awesome Winter League, the Mexican League, but build that on where you're then getting maybe the next generation of players and talent down there. No, and we see it throughout baseball. There's Latin Heritage Nights, things the Los Rockies that they'll do every once in a while. It's the I guess like and you can speak to this even more, like the Hispanic Latin American culture, Mexican culture. It's so ingrained in baseball. We always think of like Dominican Republic, Venezuela, but just everywhere, it's so ingrained into the sport and part of that lifeblood of it.
Yeah, and for anybody out there, if you're wanting to practice your Spanish, flip on the Rockies broadcast in Spanish. I do that every now and then just to hear, because then you start really. I think I know more than what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Usually with the Rockies right now, we know it's a strikeout every other at bat.
Yeah,
But still, ways to experience the game, listening, and they do a great job, the Rockies broadcast. And I had an opportunity. I've talked to just a couple of players in my little life that making a connection in Spanish, because you also look at these Latino players. Is one of the hardest things to do. Like, hitting the baseball is hard, but getting into a restaurant to order a meal, you're not sure your pronunciation, or you just black out. That is so much harder than hitting a baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys that I think, as we said, guys that were in the majors go back, and now they're managers. Now they're in the system. They serve as translate interpreters and helping the younger guys get over the culture shock. They start adapting to how they need to go about doing things. And I've talked to Vinny Castilla and talked to him in Spanish, and he was like, "Wait, what?" And it was like, it was awesome. He's like, "Who's this guy just speaking Spanish to me? It's awesome." They light up. Ishmael Rogers, when they was down in Tucson in spring training, talking to him about life in Spanish, and you see them light up, and just like you see them out on the field, that energy, the swagger, the pure happiness of being on a baseball field to play and compete. And that's what's awesome. And you see these games in the Mexican League, the energy that's at the stadium, people wanting to, it was cool listening to the chants and like the boos or whatever as the game was going. It's like, they know, right on it.
Yeah. So it's awesome, and it's cool. And we'll have to do another episode of one of these other guys, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, other places. But it's awesome that we have that opportunity. Like we did the episode of players from Asia, and now we've got this one, players from Mexico, and it's just awesome though. It really, I think, hammer home the point of baseball really is an international sport. People think that, it's America's pastime, but no, there's countries around the world who probably love it more than we do here in the U.S. Because, like you said, where soccer is king, baseball's like right there as well and growing, which is really cool. And as baseball fans, we love to see that. And there's talent, and they're coming, and it's awesome to see the growth of the game in that way. We just need the Rockies to continue to find some more of that talent. Yep. We would love to have another Vinny Castilla.
Oh, for sure. And that's what's interesting going forward. These connections of I'm waiting to see if there's guys that on the radar that Vinny calls up Bill and says, "Hey, I got a guy you need to take a look at. He could make an impact on the Rockies right now." That's what I want to see. Is these guys start getting fished out, saying, "We need him here."
Yeah, we need this guy. Put him in our system, and let's see what we can get out of him. See what we can do, because you never know. You can find talent wherever. We're always plucking those guys back from Korea or Japan. Let's pluck some guys out of the Mexican League and see what we can find. But it's fun stuff. And this is a fun episode. I like this one. There's a lot of interesting guys. Fun to go back down that kind of a lot of swing and misses, but Armando Reynoso, I think, is that highlight.
The immaculate grid. That's
nothing else will help you fill out that Rockies
that'll
square.
get you a lot of the 0.1% used. Yeah.
There we go. That's what we're here for. We'll get you that immaculate score of 3. But that'll do it here for this episode of Every Rocky Ever. And hopefully, we'll try to keep you updated whenever we can do the next one. Again, hopefully once Dustin gets done with school and stuff and things maybe calm down a bit, we'll be a little more regular during the summer, which, hey, that's the fun time to do it. But
right now the county Cappies are in full swing, undefeated, leading the league.
There you go. You're going to pluck a guy out of the Mexican League come play for you, too.
Oh, yeah.
But you can always find us over on Twitter at Every Rocky Ever. It's kind of tough because there's not a lot of former Rockies. I could always start posting minor leaguers, but I always forget. But you can always go check through there and go through the whole archive of posts. We've posted every current former Rocky, or very close to it. Pretty sure I've got everybody. But yeah, and you can always go check out at ROCKYMTN Rooftop, Rocky Mountain Rooftop on Twitter and Instagram. We've got new episodes every Monday, and some fun stuff that have happened during this week that you're hearing this episode, where hopefully I've talked to Aiden Longwell, first baseman for the Fresno Grizzlies in the system. We'll have a new Affected by Altitude episode that's been up with, I believe, Patrick Lyons joining us of Just Baseball. So, fun stuff. We'll all get through this Rocky season together, because it's going to be a slog. But
so that's part of it, and you guys do a good job. You and Evan doing the Affected by Altitude and the content that's put out, every day, all week by Bro, and then the Fans First Sports Network stuff. It's good content, and it keeps me up to date, and I enjoy it, being a diehard Rockies fan.
Yeah. So that'll do it here. Until next time, this has been Every Rocky Ever. I'm Skyler. That's Dustin. Farewell.
Adios.
Adios. Viva los Rockies.
Yeah.